Trix Ngado. Today on the show, shall be taking a look at the very latest in entertainment news, but that comes at the tail end of the show where we ease you into the weekend. But before that, we shall be looking at the biggest news that have made headlines. The revenue allocation formula, of course, goes without saying that that has been a hot topic this week, as well as the fracas that happened at the Nairobi County Assembly, the police brutality we saw, and the intrigues that were leading up to that. We shall be analyzing that with our special guest right here in studio. All right, and before that, we're going to be looking at what's making headlines on the dailies. As usual, we welcome you to participate in the show, and the hashtag is KTN Morning Express. If you'd like to tweet, Trix is at Trix Ngado. I am at Michael G. Gitonga. You're welcome to let us know how you weigh in on some of the topics that we're going to be looking at. But before that, we're going to be looking at what's making headlines in the dailies, and I'm joined by Gloria Oroba, who's a youth policy analyst. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Morning.
All right, and we'll go straight into what's making headlines in the dailies this morning. And on the Standard, rebellion in Uhuru Raila's strongholds. And of course, this was seen to be played out even as the Senate was trying to have a formula settled on revenue allocation. But you're going to be talking about that on the other segment with Trix. But this particular article is referring to the coast region and also the central region, where we have seen a number of what would have been thought to be members allied to the president and to Raila also breaking away. And I'll just quote one of them. We have the likes of Kabando, who is on record saying that the government was sinking unless the head of state reposed his political life soon. There was nothing to salvage. Your thought on this, Beryl? Gloria, rather. Sorry.
Well, I think people are waking up, and it's not just the Kenyans, it's the politicians as well. They've realized that we are going into an election year, and they need to get re-elected. And of course, now we are re-electing our leaders based on the things they've actually done for the communities. Mm-hmm. So when we've stopped playing party politics, it's no longer about just group thinking and hard thinking and just following one person. Really, it is about what am I delivering to my constituency, what am I delivering to my county as a governor, and I think that's what's there. That's what's playing.
Do you think really it is that they've woken up, or could it be that they've not got their selfish ends met, and as a result they're trying to sort of bargain and arm twist the leaders?
No. I think they've woken up. I think they've woken up because, we are forgetting that if they are the MPs, if they are the senators or the governors, they are constantly in touch with the people. And what is happening is that the people are saying, okay, you might be in ODM, you might be in Jubilee, wherever it is you are, but for us here on the grassroots, you have not brought any development. So actually the leaders are starting to conform to the thinking of the people, because the thinking of the people it's not on party lines, it's actually on the delivery of the services that we voted you in for.
All right, and maybe then that would be good news if that be the case, if your analysis is correct. But what do you see the leaders playing out, or what do you see them doing? Because like you're going to be discussing on revenue allocation, rebellion is likely not to have them, things that they expect delivered on time.
Well, what you see, especially when you look at the politicians in the coast who actually came together and had that presser. What they're starting to realize is that they have strength in numbers based on the regions, because they're also dealing with common problems, So to have someone come in from another constituency based on party lines trying to tell you we have to do this because our party is focused on a certain thing, for instance, BBI, so in order for us to get to BBI successfully, they're starting to understand that really what is happening is we are stronger in numbers. So you can see in the coast region, they're actually conforming to, if this is what you're telling us to do, to bring in the one man, one vote, 1 shilling, then we are going to revert to Majimbo. And they say that very clearly. Right. So this is not, it's no longer about party politics. And I'm very excited about this fact.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's hope your predictions are correct, and let's see how that goes on. But now that you've brought in the question of parties, do you think we need to rethink how our parties work? Because really, one cannot say in Kenya we have parties per se. We have individuals. Because, for instance, try to imagine ODM without Raila, Jubilee
maybe without Uhuru Kenyatta, maybe Wiper without Kalonzo Musyoka. It's really individual based as opposed to having an institution that is there to push ideologies and what the Mwananchi wants. Do you think we need to rethink our political parties?
Actually, what's going to happen, and you'll see it happening, is that we are going to now start conforming to movements, you know? And a movement is really, a party really should be a movement because we should be put together because of the ideology. You see a lot of people who are aligned to Deputy President William Ruto talking about the Hustler Nation movement. It's a movement because it appeases to a common, there's a thing that brings those people together. There's a thing, it's about hard work and merit and fighting the dynasties and whatever it is they've put together. And really, that is what ideology is. Not just, okay, we have a leader, Gloria is here, and Gloria has said we go to the well and drink water. No, it's about we are together, we are facing a common problem, and we understand this problem, and we also understand that in order to solve it, we must come together, and that really should be the mindset behind a party. Yeah.
All right, and well, that's something that we're waiting to see, and of course, as we get to 2022, we are likely to see alignments and realignments and even other parties being born as we continue. But that's what's making headlines on the Standard this morning. Rebellion in Uhuru, Raila, strongholds. To some good news on page 3, Kenya's Rumble hits the screens. And this is a movie that has been made by Kenyans, made in Kenya, and is likely to hit the screens very soon. Of course, just to get your comments on this, particularly being a youth policy advisor, this must be good news for the youth, although the film industry is one that has a lot of things that need to be sorted out as we speak.
I am very passionate about arts and culture, and it's been there for the past 11 years. And I get excited when I see this kind of headlines because it means we might not have gotten there in terms of creation of jobs, in terms of innovative ventures with the youth, including arts and culture. But when I see something like this, it means that it's the first step, you know? In order for us to get to a culture where we're actually appreciating and incentivizing on a commercial level this kind of work, you know, arts and culture, theater, spoken word, whatever it is in that field.
Right.
For me, I feel like finally, something is starting to happen in that arena, and it's good news for the youth.
Good news, but
yes.
Of course the film industry being a very expensive industry, and the government not seeming to have come in through for the young people, particularly when it comes to making of films. Kenya remains to be one of the most expensive destinations to make films, and of course that works against us, and maybe that's something that as we look at policies that need to help the youth, that's an area that we need to look at.
Yeah, we need to check. There's a lot of licensing and prerequisites for us to produce anything that is of good quality to be tabled in forums like this, for instance, you know. You know what the disconnect is, actually? The disconnect is that we've appointed leaders who don't really understand this sector. You know, they don't really get what it means to actually produce work that is worthy to commercially bring back incentive.
And even to compete on an international platform.
Yeah, and even to compete on an international platform. So you know what, they think, oh, it's just wasanii unaweka hapa, there's Kenya National Theatre. No, there's so much more to it. There's a whole back-end engineering of arts and culture, and there's a commercial element that we need to tap into, but it can only start by electing the proper people in these agencies, the proper people in these government institutions, and even in the ministry, people who understand what arts and culture is all about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, on to page 6 on the Standard, there is a story there. KANU now goes digital to register more members, and of course parties are being forced to look at new ways of doing things. This was done yesterday, but the party, they are going digital, and of course, as not just as a nation, but globally, we've been forced to do things differently. And maybe just to get your comments on how we need to rethink how we are doing things at the point in time we're in.
Yes, we have to evolve. We have to evolve. That's what you're seeing KANU doing. And actually, I'm hoping to see other parties, you know, digitizing their operations, because the whole thing about queuing, getting cards and all that, it might not be necessarily viable during these times. But it's not only that. What you'll see also with KANU, as much as it's an old party, so to speak, is that you'll see they've embraced youth leadership. And they're not just embracing them to put them in the front line as a sort of accessory. They're actually embracing their ideas, they're embracing their thinking. And so I can tell you, as much as there are these notions on what KANU is as a party, you know, and the kind of leadership they've had in the past, we have to give it to them, because this is new thinking. Show me a party that has gone digital. Show me a party that is embracing youth leadership and actually listening to them. So far, I would say...
So far, so good.
So
well,
good.
Kudos to them, and may they continue in that way. And other parties, of course, will be left catching up and learning, because, well, with the new normal after COVID-19, digital is the way to go. On to page 10 of the Standard. Board of Teachers to receive pay as varsities reopen in January. But that will also sort of bring in our headline on The Nation, our children to learn under trees. That is from Magoha. Let's start with the universities that to reopen in January. Do you feel that we are prepared to have that happen, given, you know, COVID-19 is what put us where we are now, and looking at how infrastructure, for example, even for our universities, what has changed?
I'm wondering what they mean by reopening. Reopening means physical, that we are going to this physical, you know, building.
Institution, yes.
Institution. That's the problem right there. We are looking for innovative ways. Reopening should not necessarily mean that I have to physically go to a classroom, to an institution. So, I mean, already there, I'm just like, what is happening? We can do online.
It's like they're still stuck in this old way of thinking.
It's like we have these buildings and we have to force that we use them for the purposes that they were pre-corona, and that's the problem right there.
Okay, so really what we should be thinking of is that we never should have closed in the first place, because digitally they should have still been learning, and as a result, come January, it's just improving and making sure that they're able to learn from wherever they are. If the infrastructure is not big enough, people can still learn from home.
Exactly. So it should have just been more on, okay, we've been doing online platforms, and maybe at one point we can have joint forums where we social distance 1 meter each, but it shouldn't have been that we stopped learning. We should have just had a break where we are in shock of what is happening, and then we quickly move to our digital platforms, quickly look for other ways to engage with our lecturers and between the students and all that. That's how I see this thing.
All right, but do you think that we have the necessary infrastructure for that? Because going digital is not just literally getting your phone or a laptop. There is a course that is required. There is a syllabus that maybe needs to be digitized. There's a whole lot of work that goes on in the background that possibly may not be ready overnight with a flip of a coin.
We'll never be 100% ready. But you know, it's been 6 months, huh? It's been 5 months, 6 months. If we have not been ready in these 5 months, 6 months, when are we ever going to be ready? And I'm not talking about resources. I'm talking about saying everybody has an Android at this point. Is there a way we can digitize something without having to have a physical laptop? Right. You understand? So if we've not been ready, if we've had 5 months of think tanks, advisors, mimicking what other people have been doing globally, and we are still not ready, I don't think it's a matter of equipment or resources. It's just a matter of deciding that we want to evolve. All
right, now let's look at the headline of the Daily Nation, which is also on matters education. And according to the CS for Education, he says that children who've been whiling at home now may have to prepare themselves to attend what now they're calling communal classes in their neighborhoods. And those who do not have, literally, who do not have buildings where they can be housed, will have to learn under trees. This is where we have reached. Do you think that's progressive or retrogressive?
First of all, I'm so glad that finally CS Magoha is taking advice from anyone. Because
you make it sound like he was not listening to anybody at some point.
I mean, so many people, I'm telling you, a couple of weeks ago we did an interview, we did a discussion on this, and I remember actually picking on the ideas and the points that had been forwarded to the CS, and people were talking about, we have other systems, let's start tapping into those systems, like the Nyumba Kumi initiative, for instance, which is very effective in the grassroots. So it was about the teachers are also home in those small communities, and the students are home. So what is stopping the teachers and those few students who are in the same neighborhood from social distancing but still being able to cover something in that curricula? We posed this question to the CS publicly in forums, and I'm glad that it might have been 5 months, but I'm glad that he has come around, because in Kenya we can pose things, but the world, everything is still going on.
Right.
So this is like this is again where I say it would really help if you have some sort of youth leadership in different places, because the stubbornness of doing things different is on a low level.
Is on a low level. And of course, you know, technology and the uptake of new ways of thinking definitely would need a very youthful person who can think out of the box. For instance, learners at different stages. I mean, if we use the model that you're saying, where you have students who possibly may have been going to different schools, have different teachers, but now would be forced to go into one communal area of an estate, for example, with a new teacher, those students may be at different stages. So these are challenges that are real, and overcoming them may not be something that will happen overnight.
And these are challenges that actually had already been thought of. These are challenges that when that task force, or whatever it is they were calling it, was put together to advise the education sector, these are challenges they had actually thought through. And yes, we will not get it right the first time, because it's a pandemic, and we are all dealing with this on a first-time basis. So the thing is, we need to start. Let's start from somewhere. Let's put together these communities that are the children who are in the same neighborhoods, and let's start from there. Let's first understand how many people are in the same level. You know, if we don't start working on something, you won't be able to address any challenge.
Absolutely. We have to put our best foot forward and, you know, start moving in that direction. But also, you mentioned, and this is something that maybe we need to rethink as a country, about stopping education. One of the things that, of course, was highlighted by the CS not too long ago is that students would have to repeat a whole year because they did not sit the examination. Question is, this time that they've been at home, what have they been doing? Is there a way we can think or do things differently, such that if they don't do the exam, they also don't have to get stuck at repeating a whole year? You
know, I questioned that whole idea of this is a lost academic year.
Correct.
It might have been a lost academic year in terms of covering certain things in the syllabus. But when you're telling a 12-year-old at 13, I have a 12-year-old, you might pause his education, but you are not going to pause the fact that he's going through preteen.
And he's growing.
Yeah, and he's growing.
Yeah.
And some of those you know, I keep reminding people that it's not that someone woke up and said you have to be 6 years old to be in class 1. There's a lot of thinking that went behind what is the mature age to do this certain curriculum or this certain class. So we might pause that, yes, they are not going through the class 6 curriculum. But then the class 6 curriculum covers things that the teenager or the preteen is going through. So when you're pausing the curricula and then you're saying, we'll revisit after a year, when now you've already gone through all of those things, you know, are we really trying to say that we don't have experts to advise us on other models other than taking a pause, a whole year?
A whole year.
Yeah.
And this, of course, given that they did not know that this was going to happen, so they were still preparing for exams. For instance, those who in standard 8 and 4th form were still preparing as though they were going to sit the exams, because there was, you know, wind that it may have been still gone on, only for it to be cancelled. So you can imagine the frustration. And I wonder whether that is not counterproductive.
And it's not only frustration. Let me say this. You know, there's a lot of psychosocial, you know, stress on these children. And you can't just wake up and say we are going to pause everything because we can do it, we are a government. You have to understand it will have repercussions. Correct. We will have a year where we already have so many youth who are unemployed. And these youth have gone through the normal curricula, they've graduated, they're unemployed. Now we are taking a pause and having a whole population, a whole sector of children who are going to be affected by this whole pause, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
And, well, the education sector, of course, is one of those that has taken a major hit, and we wait and see how it's going to finally level out as we wait for the education sector literally to balance out. Because one of the other questions is, even as students return to schools, like we've seen in universities, the physical structures that we're using may not accommodate. Currently, we are supposed to have a classroom with maybe, say, 15 students. The status that it was before pre-corona was about 30, between 30 and 50. So even, infrastructure is not ready to accommodate the new normal, so to speak.
I think, I read an article about a school owner who decided while everything is closed, he's going to turn his school into a storage for food and stuff like that. And people were questioning that ideology. And I want to say that that is one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is that we've pushed the religious sector into having sort of like, what are they called, shifts? Because you can only have 100 people at one go. So you start thinking, how am I going to service 2,000 or 3,000 congregants? Am I going to do shifts where I have 100 here and then 100 in another hour? And then we have to start now thinking of ways outside of the box, and the box being fitting 30, 40, 50 students into a classroom, because that's what we did pre-corona.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, rethinking is what we're going to have to do. We are now also joined by David Dosiani, who is a political analyst via video link. Thank you for joining us this morning, David. We are reviewing the dailies this morning, and we are now on page 4 of the Daily Nation, where we have a story. Raila betrayed Coast voters, says MPs as they vow to ditch ODM. And we had also looked at this from the Standard, where we also have seen some leaders in Central Province who have somewhat stood and are seen to be going against the president. Your thoughts on what may be happening, David, to the two political parties, especially given that after the handshake, there seemed to be some form of gelling and going together. But now, we see rebellion from the two parties coming from the members of parliament. Your thoughts on this, David?
And I'm so sorry for joining slightly late, but let me say that the vote on revenue allocation was a very personalized vote. It was it depended on many things. There are people who voted because they are the next supposed governors for their counties, so they were not going to revenue. There are people who believe that they voted out of, their desire for a better future. There are people who believed that the Commission on Revenue Allocation did not expand sufficiently the measures for making that decision or for basing the allocation. There are those who voted because parties said they should vote. And so I know that for people like parliamentarians from the coast who believe that over the years, they have been marginalized, and they think that that marginalization has been deliberately based on the policies that the country has made. For them, this was a very personalized vote. I, however, do not think that the insinuation by the papers that they want to walk away from Raila is a reality. Remember that over time, Raila has proved that he's the one who delivers the vote in the coast and delivers the leaders there, and not vice versa. I always quickly point out to, when my very good friend Balala was in Mombasa, it was Raila who delivered Balala to Mombasa. And when it was apparent they were not going to work together, then he said, okay, I could well get a replacement. And he delivered an alternative in Ali Hassan Joho. If that would seem not apparent, and it would seem like Joho would want to walk away, Raila would deliver yet another person. Why? Because the people of the coast identify with Raila as a mark of, as a representative of their plight over time.
Allow me to pause
they
you.
Know that he understands them. They believe that he understands them better.
Okay, allow me to
And
pause
so
you,
no
David.
one can go and purport to speak in that place or pretend to understand them better. So this notion of walking away, I mean, for example, Aisha Jumwa, how many times is she going to walk away? She's walked away, she is not there. So you can't parade her in a press conference and say they are walking away. You can't walk away every day. You're gone, you're gone.
All right. Gloria, Gloria wanted to give you a rebuttal because she was of the opinion that they have finally woken up to the reality that parties, I mean, if the parties are not delivering to what the people want on the ground, then they're going to have to look for alternatives. Maybe let me just give Gloria a chance to give you a rebuttal to that.
It's very strange to hear Osiani said, Raila delivered so-and-so to the people. Raila did so-and-so to these people in Mombasa. Because I'm wondering, are you trying to say the people in Mombasa have absolutely no thoughts on what they want in their communities? They are just sitting and waiting for a man somewhere who doesn't even belong in that constituency to show up and deliver a preferred leader. You know, we need to stop this. We need to start treating our people with dignity, with respect, because these people exist. They have mindsets. They have wishes for their community. They are the ones who went and voted. Raila did not vote in Mombasa so many times so that Joho could go in. People actually went and voted. They put a choice. So he might have swayed them to think a certain way. But you know, this thinking of Raila delivered anything, it's a thinking that is so disrespectful to the people. Inaonyesha tu madharau, because you're trying to say these people have no heads, no thoughts, no idea where they want to be in their communities, and that is a thinking that has stopped. And that is why you're seeing people going to press conferences in Mombasa where you claim, Osiani, that Raila delivered someone. You're seeing them saying, actually, we are better off going back to Majimbo. We sort this thing out ourselves in our communities because it's about the people.
All right.
Yeah.
David, would you like to defend your Raila delivering to the people?
Mike, I think I wish that I would bury my head in the sand like Gloria. You know, the fact that that is our reality does not mean that that is my ideal. I think I would wish for something better. I would wish that it were not true and that these people would, you know, do as they may. And Gloria admits brilliantly, albeit trying to assume that she ignored or believe that she has said something different, that Raila swayed that vote. It is the reality of those voters. It is not out of discourtesy or disrespect or lack of dignity. It is only that they align their plight with the politics that Raila Odinga has represented over time, which is social justice kind of politics. When I say he delivered, it only means, as she has said brilliantly, he sways and has a bit of clout on who becomes what in that region. Now, if that is not disagreeable, then let us agree that that is likely to continue. And I want to correct this, that the parliamentarians from the coast who made a press conference, Gloria, you may not know Aisha Jumwa. I'm happy to remind you that Aisha Jumwa is a parliamentarian who has had to leave ODM long before, almost punished for it. We argued for why she must not be punished for making a choice. And so for her to say she has walked out, and she's a personal friend of mine when I say this, for her to argue that she has walked out of ODM, she is doing what she already did.
All right, but Osiani,
and has the papers of divorce already.
Osiani,
but says that I'm leaving this marriage.
Osiani, you need to wake up.
It is left.
You need to wake up.
All right, Osiani, this is not just about ODM. We also have leaders.
Gloria needs to be a bit more real. I understand where she comes from and I appreciate it. I am one of the believers in a better political future where we will be people who pursue an ideology, who pursue a stand on policy and many other things as opposed to personalities. But that is not our reality today.
That's where we are. Osiani, that's where we are.
No, that's not our reality today.
That's why you're seeing
Gloria.
people impeaching their governors. That's where we are. That's where we are headed.
All right.
And you're behind.
And Osiani, allow me to also just highlight, because this has become about ODM, and it's not just about ODM. We also have leaders from Central Province who are going against Uhuru Kenyatta, which, for instance, Kabando is one who was seen to be an Uhuru ally, but that seems to be changing. So there could be a political shift, as much as we want to feel and think that there is not one.
No. The possibilities of political shifts are as obvious as, as day is from the night. I think allegiances are beginning to shift, which is something that was expected. My fellow former Sonu chairman, Kabando, I remember even tweeted yesterday and said in a raft of tweets that he doesn't think BBI should now be a priority anymore. Now, from a person who studies politics from outside in, that may point to two things. Either his interests are not aligned with the goings on, or he may well have been sent to try the waters by putting this out there, because I also understand is a bit close. I would take more seriously if someone like Ngunjiri Wambogo of Nyeri would come out and say, we are not going to do A, B, C, or this. That would, in my opinion, almost sound a very definite warning that, okay, there is mind change in the camp of the president.
All right.
It would be the equivalent of, say, Orengo saying ABCD. People would just read, could Raila be speaking through Orengo? Never mind, they too have their personal opinions, regardless of their proximity to their leaders.
Okay.
So I do not entirely dismiss the possibility of realignments, of political interests or political visions. It's going to be a wait and see. We will wait and see where that gets to.
All right, and that brings us to about 7:30. So we want to take a short break right here on Morning Express. When we come back, Trix is going to be handling the next segment and looking at revenue allocation bill, the divisive revenue allocation bill, Nairobi County, police brutality seems to be back, looking at what happened at the Nairobi County Hall not too long ago. And we also have international flights back starting tomorrow, the 1st of August. So those are some of the topics that we're going to be handling right here when we come back. For now, we take a break. When we come back, Trix is going to be taking over that segment. Remember, you're welcome to participate in this conversation, and you can do that via social media. Let's take that break.